you've never flown a tiny whoop, you have no idea what you're missing. These little quadcopters are fast, fun, nearly indestructible, and can be flown almost anywhere. I'm Alex Grieve, better known as IB Crazy, and in this video I want to show you what I believe to be the best tiny whoop setup. A good combination of performance, speed, durability, and flight time. So with that, let's go build ourselves a tiny whoop.
We'll start out this build by going right to the Tiny Whoop website. Go down here to replacement parts and upgrades, and the first thing we're going to buy is a flight controller. This is the B-Brain board. I have a Spectrum radio, so I'm going to select the Spectrum DSMX, and then I'm going to go back to replacement parts and pick up some motors. These are the secret sauce motors, which I feel to be the best combination of power and runtime. Now we need the next part, and that's a frame. I like this Delrin frame. It's very light and reasonably durable. But now we need a flight camera. Under FPV gear, you can see several cameras. I'm going to pick this one. They're all about the same, but this seems to be the lightest. Now here you can select an antenna. I'm choosing right-hand circular polarized. However, those who know me know full well that's not what I'm going to leave on my quadcopter. I'm going to upgrade to a higher-end cloverleaf. A left-hand cloverleaf. Why? Because, well, I fly left-hand circularly polarized, and this one's going to take a lot more crashes than the bone stock antenna. We also need a few more parts. You can't fly without the batteries. So what batteries to choose from? Well, they all work, but I find this tiny whoop battery to be just right. Now I'm going to get a couple of them because, well, 2.5 minutes of flight time isn't going to be enough. And the last but not least, we're going to need some propellers. Doesn't really matter which ones, I'll choose some black ones, and that should just about do it. Let's get an extra set just in case. So let's check our cart. We got our props, battery, camera and transmitter with the antenna, frame, motors, flight controller. Yeah, it's a bit expensive, but it's worth it. To program our flight controller, we're going to use Betaflight. Now if you don't have it, just go down here to the web store, type in Betaflight, and it should be the first thing that comes up. Just install it, in about 30 seconds, you're ready to go. While the board does have Betaflight installed and it does come working, I find the settings are, well, less than perfect. So with that, we plug our board in and hit connect. Okay, now the first thing we need to change is the PIDs. Over here on the left, you'll see PID tuning. I find these to be quite far off, especially the integral. I'm going to turn all of these up. I'm going to turn up the pitch a little bit higher than the roll, and I'm going to turn the yaw way up. Why am I doing this? Well, the vehicle seems sloppy and will go off angle when throttling up if I don't do that. However, I need to lower the proportional a little bit here on the yaw because it's just not quite where I want it. I'm going to turn up the derivative here to 17 for both pitch and roll. I don't know why Betaflight doesn't give me access to yaw, but oh well. The other thing I want to change is the RC rate. I don't see a need to have the same pitch and roll authority and yaw, so I'm going to turn up the yaw and down the pitch. I also tend to like a little bit less expo, so I'm going to turn this down a little bit. The last thing I'm going to do is turn down the throttle expo. Throttle expo makes sense on high power quads, but not so much on a tiny whoop. Okay, click save, and we're ready to roll.
Okay, so now you have the parts and you know how to set up Betaflight to run well on the B-Brain flight controller. The last thing you need to do is assemble it, and that's pretty straightforward. Just be sure you have the numbers 00 and 000 Phillips head screwdriver, as these screws are really tiny. But in all honesty, the assembly is really easy. All you do, install the motors, and in the bottom there are plugs the motors simply plug in, and they even tell you which direction the motors rotate. Now one thing to note is that most of the diagrams for the tiny whoop, the prop direction is incorrect, so make sure it's the same one that's being used in Betaflight. That is, the propellers turn inwards toward the frame. This prop would turn that way. So if something would hit it, it would attempt to suck it into the center of the frame. So with that, go out, build yourself a tiny whoop, and have a great time. As for me, well, it's time for me to fly. Until next time, I'm IB Crazy, and keep 'em flying.